Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Wednesday, the 30th of April. I cannot believe the fourth month of this year is already gone. This is moving quickly. Well, for those of you who are not Canadian, you may not have heard, but we now have a minority Liberal government in Canada, and Mark Carney continues on as our Prime Minister. And I don't want to have a political video here today. I don't want to talk about politics per se. What I would like to talk about is the opportunity that we as Canadians have to offer grace and live with integrity and recognize dignity and all of those things. So one of the things about a minority government is that our government, which I hate to admit this, but from time to time does act a little childishly. It doesn't matter who's in control of the party in control. They can sometimes act a little bit like they're all in the sandbox throwing sand at one another. But the fact is that when you have a minority government, it means everybody has to do their level best to get together, to work together, to do their best for every single person. And so, yes, it would be lovely to have a majority government because there's some sense of security and a sense of longevity that work is going to get done. However, having a minority government means that people have to work together. They have to intentionally come together and try to do their best. Now, there's two sides to this. The government, the parties that are not, who are not leading, could join together to bring down the minority government, which sometimes does happen, or the minority government could reach across the aisle and find ways to work with the other parties. And as far as I know, there are enough seats won by both the minority Liberals and the Bloc Québécois and the NDP and the Green Party that they could indeed maintain the government if they behave themselves. And that's the thing. Politics, if you watch politics at any time in any period of it doesn't matter which decade you look at. I don't think we could ever look at any country's politics and say, weren't they gentlemanly? Weren't they beautiful? Wasn't it that the golden era? I think people just behave badly because people are people. And as my friend would say, people. Um, but the fact is, you and I, every single person, we're called not simply to people, not just simply to be human. We're called to be a little bit more than that, because to be human means that we do the basic things in life. The base, those things. What makes us more than human, I think, is the fact that we act with compassion, that we have empathy, that we use not just as people refer to as the lizard brain, the reaction part of our brain, but that we think about things, we contemplate, we reflect, we think critically. And critical thinking does not mean thinking badly of someone. So, and that's one of those things about education that unfortunately seems to have gotten lost. Having been an English major and then a theology major in my 2 degrees in university, one of the things I learned really early on that critical thinking is not the same as when somebody is criticizing you. So somebody could say, I really don't like Rachel's haircut. Or why doesn't she dye her hair and then she'd look younger? That's criticism. Either one of those things, I don't care. Fill your boots. But the point is, that's a criticism. Critical thinking might go along the lines of, Bishop Rachel got her hair cut. I wonder if that was for professional purposes or simply it was time. Does she schedule that? Or is it something that she just gets to the point where it's just too much and she needs to get a cut? When we actually think about something critically, not badly, but asking the questions. It was a silly example. But what I'm saying is that critical thinking in the government, about the government, may indeed be things like when they talk about tax cuts. To think critically about tax cuts would be to say, okay, so if we cut taxes, what are the benefits? People pay less tax. What other benefits are there? Maybe if people are paying less tax, they'll be more apt to go out and spend some more money on something, which sort of boosts the economy. Okay, that's good. Well, what about the critical side then? Like thinking critically is the both list the either or, the pros and cons. So think critically about tax cuts. What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? If we cut our taxes, less money is coming into the government budget to cover the budget, and that means that there's some things won't be able to be paid for. Well, what things might not be paid for? Well, could be healthcare, could be the $10 a day daycare, could be maintaining the facade of the actual parliament buildings, because that takes money. And some people then think critically, well, do we really need to maintain it? Well, on one hand, it may seem like a vanity project to continue make our parliament buildings look good. On the other hand, what happens if you don't maintain the outside of a building in our current climate, where like we still have acid rain and things like that. We've got things that eat away at, and we need repointing of bricks. And if we don't fix the facade, what happens if a brick gets loose and falls and drops on someone's head? You see what I'm going? Critical thinking leads us to think beyond our emotions. Often criticisms become emotionally driven or emotionally heard. Critical thinking takes us actually away from emotion and into that place where we are thinking, considering, and being able to see things from different perspectives. That, I think, is what's necessary for all of us right now in the Canadian culture, in the church, for those of us who are Christian, as we talk about who Christ is, for those of us who are Christian who are really frustrated with the whole Christian nationalism thing, because that's a thing here in Canada as well. Not as pronounced as elsewhere, but it is still a thing. And it's something we need to be aware of. And if we apply critical thinking, not criticism as in, I don't like you, so I'm going to pick at you and tell you how stupid you are, but critical thinking like, okay, so if you are Christian, then you believe in Jesus. And if you believe in Jesus, how are you called to act? How does how you are acting line up with the gospel? How is, for instance, Christian nationalism? Are your actions and your words lining up with the gospel of Jesus Christ, or are they lining up with a political group that co-opts the words of Jesus and adapts them to what they mean? I am not speaking pro or con of either Christianity in its purest form or Christian nationalism. I'm just saying, when we think critically, we apply critical thinking to things, it makes us consider things differently. So as we move forward as a nation of Canada, which we are, and we will remain our own sovereign nation, then we need to expect our politicians and the constituents, that would be you and me and the people who voted for them or voted for someone else, we need to them and us to exercise critical thinking, to be able to take the long look, not just at how we feel, but what are the consequences of a decision. If all the consequences of a decision are wonderful, then go for it. If all the consequences for a decision are horrible for people, then don't do it. But 99 times out of 100, it's not that cut and dried. We need our politicians, we need our leaders, our teachers, our business owners, the people who live next door, ourselves. We need to all be thinking critically about, how does this decision I'm making right now impact myself, my family, my community, my church, my business, my employer, all of these things. And if it impacts any of them negatively, do I still make that decision? Do I still do that? And that is my hope. It's early days for our new government. However, my hope is that all of the people who were elected to Parliament, all of the people, regardless of what party they serve in, whoever they have pledged allegiance to as their leader, I hope that they recognize that the true people they serve are each and every constituent, whether they voted for them or not, in their riding. And if that's the case, if they are truly working that way, then they will treat each other with dignity. They will serve with integrity. They will reach out to one another and reach across the aisle to say, how can we together best serve the Canadian people? Yes, there will be arguments. Yes, there will be differences in political vision and what is important and what isn't. But my prayer and my hope and my dream and what I will work toward in my society is that my constituent, who is not the person that I voted for, but who won, or my member of parliament, will recognize that I am willing to work with him. Hopefully he'll be willing to work with me, because I do believe we truly have the best of all the people in this riding in our hearts and minds. We need to think critically. We need to not think emotionally. And when we do that, we're better able, in whatever the context we're in, to make good decisions. So goes in politics, same thing goes in our faith lives. If we think critically and we analyze situations and take a look at all the different perspective outcomes, we will make better decisions. We really will. So God bless all of the MPs who are about to prepare themselves to go to Ottawa, whether it's returning to Ottawa or going for the first time. May God bless them and protect them. May they know that they are supported by the Canadian people. And may we, the Canadian people, treat them with respect and dignity, the same respect and dignity we expect them to treat us with. It's a two-way street. We need to think critically, not emotionally, and we need to act like human beings in the best sense of the word. Have a great day, and God bless.